for doing this.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So this podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. I was I was thinking about that. Um, it's called bringing it backwards, and I'm just wondering how far backwards we should go to like
we're,
prehistoric times.
we are. We're going back to. We're going as back as far. Or we're going to start with where you were born and raised.
Oh, okay, great. I'm born and raised in New York City.
Wow. Okay. Tell
Right,
us a little bit about
hardcore.
that. Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah. What part
Yeah.
of New York?
Um, Manhattan, which is basically the heart and soul of New York City. And I guess I thought until I was about 14, I thought New York was a planet. I didn't really think that there was anything else. I mean, New York is a very self contained, vibrant, full experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I didn't really realize that there was a whole world out there beyond New York. I mean, I think so many people come to New York for the New York experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I started out that way. So, when you start out in a place like this, that's so stimulating and full of people, teeming with people and all kinds of stories. Uh, I just think it's a very rich experience, right from the jump.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how did you get into music? I'm sure you were immersed in it there in New York.
Well, I feel like music is the connection to music is something so deep and internal. I really feel like for me, music is the language of the soul. And so it transcends location.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I love so much about being in music is that it doesn't matter where you're from
Mm-hmm.
because music it reaches deeper than your geographic location,
Sure.
and I think when you get it right, honestly, it is the most universal of all languages. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's necessarily the fact that I was around music that connected me to music. I think that music just kind of like took me to a place that actually New York didn't really matter. It was a place that had no boundaries, and yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about that.
Sure.
Just,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what was the first instrument you learned? Was it
Well,
guitar?
I learned to play guitar. I kind of played a little bit of piano when I was young, but it didn't really stick. And
Mm-hmm.
then I learned to play kind of folk guitar when I was young, and it sort of stayed with me. I think before I really got connected to an instrument, I started to sing. So I would say the first instrument really was singing,
Voice.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and I was thinking about like how did I ever really connect to singing, and I'm sure my sister would tell this differently, but I remember when she was tiny, tiny person, and we shared a room,
Mm-hmm.
that I would sing, I would sing her to sleep, and
Wow.
I would sing her the day. Like the way I would do it, I mean, there were a few songs that I knew, but
Mm-hmm.
I also just got in the habit of like putting a melody to what happened during the day. And and I would just it was like, and I feel like the tradition of singing and storytelling is something that is, I don't know, it's ancient. And before we had like multi-track recording facilities and all that,
Mm-hmm.
there was the voice and some kind of rhythm and melody where we would, people uh, would tell their stories. And I just think, children connect to that right away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not unique that way. I think like most children have this amazing connection to song and to music. It's like if you look at little babies when you sing to them, their faces change, and they kind of light up and they connect to the magic of music. So I just remember very young understanding that if you could sing it, it would almost give it, more power, more importance. You could say the same thing in words that you would sing in a song, and somehow or another, those same words, when sung, just had the power to like transform, connect, delight, move, cry,
Sure.
laugh, all that good stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I got really kind of excited by that. And I feel like I didn't know if I was a good singer. I just knew
Mm-hmm.
that I liked
Liked
singing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that I make the connection to like children and liking music because that is like, I mean, a lot of times people turn on lullabies to like calm their
Yes.
kids down or music. And I can remember my son, he's 4 now, but it was he was 2 or so, and he was
Yeah.
every time he'd have like a crazy meltdown in the car, if we played "Gorgeous" by Taylor Swift, he would like stop.
Oh, it's incredible,
It
right?
was
Like,
weird. It was like
it
that
is,
song only on the. It would like happen to. I think it was on the radio or something at first, and then when we bought the album, we were like kind of going through and seeing if it would work. But that song would always. He always stopped. It was
it's
so
magic.
bizarre.
I mean, honestly, once you figure out those things that calm your babies, you're
Mhm.
pressing play every time it happens.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
we're not the Taylor Swift. My daughter had her things that that calmed her down, and they were just her go-to things. She
Sure.
needed something frozen, and she needed a certain.
Of
There
course.
was a television show with certain songs that she just loved, and immediately it would calm and soothe her and make her laugh and smile,
Mhm.
right from a meltdown to like complete joy and relaxation. And so music is magic.
It
And
totally
those of
is.
us who get to, I think it's magic on both sides, for those of us who get to make it and those of us who get to enjoy it. I mean,
Enjoy it.
I live on both sides of that. I love music and I love making music. So yeah.
That's very cool. So singing with your sister, very young,
Well,
and
no,
then
I was gonna say, like, one of the stories I thought would be kind of cool to tell was that I I kind of connected to the idea that this is where I was supposed to go. When I was 14, I was a freshman in high school, and I joined a band. And
oh, cool.
yeah, I joined a band, and the guys were cute, and I was like the chick singer. And I mean, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that they asked me if I would do it, and I thought, okay, this is really cool. I got to do it.
Mhm.
And we got a gig, and the gig was to perform at the senior prom. And
Wow, that's a big
yeah,
deal,
it was a big
especially
deal.
as a freshman.
That's exactly that. So it was almost like the doors to the inner sanctum open. I mean, no one gets to go in there until they,
Or
get up to be
seniors,
the
yeah, or
senior, right?
junior or
So,
whatever.
so all of a sudden I had this experience of like, they're like, come on in, you know, and in we went and we performed, and everybody was like gathering around us, talking to us as though we were cool all of a sudden. The same people who wouldn't even say hi to us in the hallways were like,
Sure.
yeah,
Hey,
she's in the band,
I know the band. Yeah, of course.
yeah, right. And it was an opportunity for me to see. I think I always was a little bit of a weirdo. I don't think I ever felt like I was going to follow any kind of a linear life path.
Mhm.
Like, I wasn't just going to climb a certain ladder or do things in a predictable way. And I just saw like that I jumped the fence. Like, I
Mhm.
jumped the fence and got on the inside of something that I would not have gotten on the inside of had I done it in any traditional way, because
Mhm.
I'm kind of not that traditional,
Sure.
but I still got in there anyway. So it's like, and I got in there doing something that was creative, and that just made sense to me.
Mhm.
It took me a long time to figure out how to do it my way. I think from there I sang with a whole bunch of people.
Uh-huh.
And I sang as a background vocalist. I I never thought I was that great of a singer, but I got a lot of gigs. So, it wasn't up to me to decide. It's like, okay,
Right. If
you know,
people like it, yeah,
yeah,
there you
exactly.
go.
Um, and it was, I had a tremendous I had a lot of really cool adventures doing that background
Mhm.
vocalist thing. I played huge stadiums, opening up for like mega
Wow.
things.
Okay. Well,
Um,
let's rewind here a second because this is fascinating.
okay,
Okay, so with the band that you played at the senior prom, were those original songs or those covers?
those were covers.
Okay. And how was that your first time ever being on a stage and
It
performing to
was,
people?
I, I don't think it was my first time ever being on a stage, because I did like a little bit of stuff in school, where I would perform in whatever musicals and that sort of
Mm.
thing.
Mhm.
But it was my first time like being a front person,
Okay.
on stage, and just kind of taking charge and being the one who, had
The
the front
mic. Yeah,
position,
yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah, the
Sure.
mic, and the one who had to take control and make sure everybody was having a good time and that sort of thing. So,
Mhm.
but it didn't last very long. Like, that band just evaporated. And I
Sure.
went from that to, you know, it was just like a kind of a yellow brick road of, you want to join this, you want to join that, you want to do this.
Hmm.
And, and the answer was always yes, because, you know, I wanted to give it a try. And, you know, some things lasted a minute and some things lasted a year. Some, you know, it's one of the cool things about being in music, I think, is the relationships.
Hmm.
Over the years, it's almost like, you know, boyfriends or, you know, friendships that people, you get very close to the people you work with. It's almost like a family or lovers, you know. It's all you get. It's a very intimate experience because making music is coming from a place of such pure intent. I think, you
Hmm.
know, when
Yeah.
people get together and make music, they're not messing around. It's like we're here to put all our differences aside and come together in the name of creating something that is going to reach out and make a difference.
Yeah,
And
and the vulnerability you have to have there as well,
that
especially if you're writing lyrics, you're like giving out your, yeah, you're writing from your
you have to
heart,
open up and let it all
and
out.
there's all these people in the room that might be like, I don't really get, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's
Like
what
you have to kind of have some thick skin there as well, I would
you
think.
really do. And to be honest, I didn't start out with thick skin. I still don't have it, but I've become so much braver as time's gone on.
I don't
Because
know about anyone that really has it. You know what I mean? Like you hear those stories and it's like, well, like you'll hear artists say like they'll read the comments and like one negative comment will like bring them
oh,
down
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
amongst like millions of positive
That's
ones.
right. All that for some reason, all you can remember is that one guy standing in the front row, like checking his phone. You know,
Right.
all that whole room of people who's screaming and shouting, and then all you see is that one person who's like, you know, leaves. You know,
Right.
and
And you're like,
forget
oh, that was a terrible concert.
that. Right. So it's so true. I think to do this, it's ironic because we are sensitive people, and at the
Hmm.
same time we put ourselves out there to be judged. You know, so
Sure.
it's a tough line to walk. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of us don't feel like we have a choice. I feel like we just do it because that's what we're kind of called to do, not to
Hmm.
make it sound too elevated, but
Right.
it's like the thing that we feel most comfortable doing. I mean, this is
Sure.
what I feel most comfortable doing, even in its most uncomfortable moments.
Right.
It's
Right.
still more comfortable to me than whatever the options might be. Which
Right, right, totally. Well, so you said you were you're a backup singer
I was,
for big
I was,
artists. Like,
I know,
tell me a little bit about that.
I was a backup singer, not for big artists, but for artists that opened for big artists. So, in
Okay.
other words, I was a background vocalist for a guy named Elliot Murphy, who and we opened for Meatloaf. I don't know,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Do
10,000.
anything for love? What happened to
That's
Meatloaf?
right.
Is
Do
that
anything
actually?
for love. You know, that kind of thing. Uh, you know, so I had the experience of, and I was extremely young at the time, of playing in front of thousands and thousands of screaming people, and that was no, and again, that was just me singing other people's stuff, you know,
Hmm.
and I loved, I loved that path, but at some point, I realized that if I was going to keep singing, I really wanted to sing my own songs. I
Hmm.
wanted to sing something that came directly from my heart.
Hmm.
Um, and once I made that transition, the rest is kind of history. You know, like after I understood that the power for me was really going to be in telling my story through song, um, I haven't been able to stop. You know, I really haven't. And even though this is a kind of peaks and valleys type of a career path,
Hmm.
and you know, you go up, you go down, great things happen, they vanish, you know, you think something amazing is going to happen, it falls through,
Hmm.
then you get a big success, but you have to follow it up with something. So
Right.
there's very little consistency, even for people I think who are hugely successful. You're always having to chase your own dreams and having to do it
Yeah.
again.
Outdo
You know,
yourself, so to speak.
yeah, I'll never forget when my mom, like, I got, which is later down the line. I know we've got a long ways to go, but when I finally got my big deal, she was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, are you done now? You know, can you be done with this? Like, do you
You're
have
like,
to keep doing this?" I'm like, "You don't understand.
you're like, I
I
just
just
got to
got
the
the thing,
table.
right? Now I have to do it every day, all day. You know,
Right.
harder, better, faster. You know, so
Mhm.
it is one of those things where you're never really done, you know. And I
Hmm.
mean, certainly as a songwriter, I feel the beauty of being a songwriter is that you can do it till you drop. And
Yeah. I love that you're never really done. I've heard I interviewed another artist who said so. He said, like I said that at the table, like you get to the table and it's like, but you'll never arrive, like so to
no,
speak. Like you'll never get to where you're going. You'll never arrive there because
right.
you're
And
always
then
going to
there's
keep
also
going.
that thing of like when you get the gig, the big gig, it's keeping it, you know, and you
Hmm.
don't always get to keep it. You know, I learned that the hard way, you know, once I got in the big door and I'm like, I hung on to it for a couple of years and then I got dropped from the major thing. Um, and only to find that, you know, when I had conversations with extremely, you know, accomplished people, that, you know, sort of getting dropped is a badge of distinction. It's like most people who've, you know, been, you know, got ridden
Dropped.
the train up the mountain,
Uh-huh.
eventually you kind of come down the other side and then, you know, maybe you get another ride up the mountain. But regardless, and I guess it's one of the things I was thinking about in terms of like inspiring young people or younger people to follow their dreams, is that part of it is that it's not always about the mountain, you
Hmm.
know, it's about the ride.
Sure.
So, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, you stay on that ride when it's up, when it's down, when you're crying into your pillow, when you know, when you feel like you're never going to get hurt or arrested or whatever it is, you know,
Hmm.
it's still the power's in the song and the fact that you made it. You know, the fact that you wrote that song, the fact that
Yeah.
you sung that song. And songs have given me something to fight for over the years, you know, and I like having something to fight
Yeah.
for.
Definitely.
You know,
Of
as a parent, you know, we fight for our children. And
course.
you know, I feel like the only other thing that's ever given me that level of conviction and passion is my music. You know, like,
Hmm.
I mean, don't ever mess with my kid, but also
Right. Don't mess
my
with my music.
songs, right? Music, because even because I find that like even when, you know, it's been sort of like tried to somebody's tried to take it away from me or take the pride I have in it away, or um, I fight to keep it, you know. So it
Yeah.
must say something about, you know, how deeply connected I am to it, and you know how much it means to me.
Sure. Well, when you decided to, write your own songs and kind of
Yeah,
take your own path, do you
yes,
remember what the first song you wrote was, and was it
I do.
scary and hard to put out and do
Yeah, I
shows on your
do.
own?
It's kind of hilarious because I was like thinking, what did I do? You know, because I wasn't raised to um, I wasn't supported in this choice. You know, everybody around me was like, what the F are you doing? You know, like,
That's my family too. They still
is
don't
that
understand
right?
what
They're
I
like,
do.
are you done? What are you doing? Can you
Yeah.
do something real? Like,
Right.
this isn't even real. Like, I don't even know what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, they
And
just don't get it.
yeah, exactly. And, you know, for those of us like you and me who haven't had that kind of, you know, I meet a lot of people whose parents literally like serve them up like a platter of like, well, how do you want it? You know, let's
Right.
get it, let's go get it together. You know,
Right.
there's a lot of
That's my
families.
wife's family.
Is that right? Are you in
Yeah.
Nashville?
No, actually, we're moving to Spring Hill
Oh, okay.
in about 6 months or so. We're there's a new development down there that we're
Oh,
we're we're
nice, nice.
we're coming to Nashville this weekend actually to look at it. We've never been, but
Oh,
we're
that's
moving there. We're in San Diego.
that's amazing. My
Yeah.
best friend's in San Diego, so she
Oh,
keeps sending me pictures of sunsets, and I'm like, if I don't get out there soon, you know,
yeah.
it's so beautiful. But Nashville is, you know, I'm in New York right now, but Nashville is my heart is also in Nashville. So,
What part of Nashville were you in? Like, is
well, I have a place that I stay when I'm there, and it is downtown on Printers Alley. So it's right,
wow, you're
yeah,
right in the middle of it. That's
right in
cool.
the middle.
Very
Yeah, as
cool.
a matter of fact, it's like a block and a half away from where the bomb went off. So,
Oh
you
my
know, yeah,
goodness.
yeah, it's crazy, but
Wow.
yeah, it's amazing. And having had a front row seat to 9/11, and then you know
Oh,
having
yeah, I didn't even think about that too.
yeah,
Jeez.
so it's yeah, this world is a crazy place to live, and just don't want any harm to come to anyone really.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I'm excited for you to move to Tennessee. It's an amazing, amazing place. The people are could not be more wonderful. if you guys are all about music, then
That's
you'll,
it.
you will find, not only will you find your home, but you'll find your people.
I love
And
that.
you know, that's the beauty of what Nashville means to me, is
Mhm.
that I found my people,
Mhm.
and I didn't even know they existed. I mean, like I said, I was in New York, and the thing about New York is there's so many of us, and it's
Right.
more of an every man for himself type of a situation. And whereas Nashville has a kind of a tribal energy where you will feel supported, loved, lifted up. You know, there's just a beauty to the experience of Nashville. I couldn't compare to anything else.
That's what
And
I've heard. It's just everybody's so inclusive instead of
it
being
is, they
like
are.
I mean, we're used to Los Angeles and everything where it's like all about me and
Yes,
what can you do to help me get further on in my life instead of
right.
just we're all in this kind of together and
Together, which is what Nashville is. That's basically the heart and soul of Nashville, is we're
Mhm.
all in this together, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. And so I'm excited for you. You're gonna
Thank
have
you. We're really excited, so we're
a
gonna check it out
great
this
adventure.
weekend.
Why
But
did I ask you that? Oh yeah,
well, I
because
was,
the families, because you find a lot of young people come to Nashville with, you know, sometimes they just pack a bag and go and run away from their families, but for the most part they have the support of their families.
mhm,
They're, you know, that, yeah, you find that more often than not, is that they
mhm,
have the, that their parents and their families are taking pride in their adventure and really want to see them succeed.
sure.
Whereas, you know, I was in a different type of situation where I just kind of was doing this thing. It was completely foreign to my
Right.
family. And
That's where I'm at. But
you know,
hey,
I'm here
it's
to tell
working,
you,
so
anyway, don't
I
let
love
that
that.
stop you. You know, clearly you haven't let it stop you. You know, and yeah, I mean, there. I always think, you know, there's a beauty in having to overcome. You know, just because there's something beautiful, there is something beautiful about, you know, having the support and the love, and then there's also fighters. You know, and
Mhm.
I'm a fighter, so like I'm gonna do it whether you tell me I can't. If you tell me
Sure.
I can't, there's
I'm
more of a chance
definitely
I'm
gonna
gonna
do
do it. Yeah. So,
it.
you know, I'm kind of like, I'm for the fighters. You know,
I
I
love
really
that.
am, and
Yeah.
I really think that in the event that you're out there and you don't feel supported, don't let it stop you,
Okay.
because that's not why you're doing it. You know,
Right.
you're not doing it for them. You're
Right.
doing it for you.
Hmm.
And if you go to a place like Nashville, you'll find a lot of people who will hold you up and lift you up and tell you to keep
Yeah.
going. You'll
That's
also, okay, that's the happy side of Nashville. And not that there is a sad side of Nashville, but there is a, you know, in the industry is not the same really as the art. The
hmm
art of music and the joy of music is just, you can't take that away.
right.
You know,
Hmm.
the industry is something else. The industry kind of plays this game with you, like, I can take it away. I can give it to you and I can take it away.
Right.
And if
Right.
you buy that, if you believe that, you know, you will not have as much joy in your life as you could. You know, it will, if you plug too into the, well, they have the power, you know, to say if I'm good or not, to say if I'm worthy, to say if I'm radio friendly, to say if I'm, you know, deserve this. That, I mean, obviously times have changed, and the power's in the hands of the people now more than it ever has been. You know,
Hmm.
when I started doing this, we did not have the power. You know, we were making demo tapes and going into offices, and you know, people listening to a verse and a chorus and like cutting you off, and you know, telling you to hit the road, or that you've got what it takes or you don't. And you know, there wasn't even, you couldn't even really make a record and expect it to go anywhere unless you had label support and all of that. Now
Sure.
you can make a record in your bedroom.
You don't need the label. The
Exactly.
label won't even come to you until you have. They'll come to you when you have a million streams and say,
Exactly. Exactly.
"Hey, what do you
So
got
it's a
going on?"
right. It's a totally different paradigm, a
Uh-huh.
totally different world, and you know, just anybody can pretty much do anything, and there's no rules, you
Right.
know,
Right.
like there used to be.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'm not sure where this takes me in my
But yeah,
timeline.
no, 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 no. So okay, so when you were you're still in New York when you decided to just start writing music and putting it
I
on your
was.
own.
Oh, yes, I was. And I remembered as I was trying, because my memory is a little spotty, Swiss cheesy. Um, but I remembered, yes, I remembered my first song. It's a little embarrassing, but I remember my first song, and I remember who produced my first demo, which was
Wow.
kind of weird because it's not something I should have forgotten, but it just came to me. And his name is Elliot Lurie, and he sings the song Brandy, You're a Fine Girl.
Oh yeah, I know the song.
Which, I mean, even people of not an older generation probably know
Know
that
the
song
song. Yeah, it's
because
a huge hit.
it was like a huge, huge hit. I mean,
Yeah.
and still to this day, it's being played probably every day
Somewhere.
somewhere.
Yeah, totally.
Because I walk into the supermarket and
Grocery. I was just gonna say it's like a grocery store song
it's a
now.
grocery store song. So even like 18-year-olds probably have heard Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. He
Yep.
produced my first demo, and it was okay. I
Uh-huh.
mean, I don't know that it got me anything fabulous. I think it did get me sort of a development deal, and I just kind of took it from there and kept going. But my journey, everybody's is different. I didn't really get a break until later on.
Oh.
When I mean, I played, I did all kinds of cool stuff. I made some records. They did okay, but nothing really amazing. And then I became a parent. And when I became a parent, um, it was pretty all consuming. Like I really wasn't the headspace I was in was not really like, oh, I want to be a mommy and an artist. I just
Sure.
really wanted to be a mommy. It was that compelling to me that
Mm-hmm.
she was my ultimate creation. And I just was like, oh, well, I can stop for a minute and enjoy this experience. And I did. I really did.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the crazy I kept writing and kept singing and kept performing and with not really much idea of where it was supposed to go. I was less goal oriented.
Okay.
And I think my music changed and I kind of something
Was
like that.
with that, like you had the self-titled record came out in 2006.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, yeah. And was that when did
Okay,
you
so
have?
that's a really good question
Yeah.
because
So where did that all
basically
kind of take place?
my daughter was born in 93 and in
Okay.
2006 I got divorced in 2002,
Okay.
and 9/11 played a huge role in that record because basically, and in my deal with Warner, because what happened was I kind of between 93 and 2000 whatever one, I
Mm-hmm.
was really into being a mommy, and
Sure.
I wrote a bunch of stuff, but I didn't really have the drive to pursue the music the same passion.
Okay.
And then I split from my husband and my ex, and I got a job in real estate working at a building this is right after 9/11. So 9/11 was the day I decided to get divorced.
Wow.
By December of 2001, which is a few months later, and I lived in zone 1, so everything was like shut down and crazy. I got a job in real estate in December, and I got stationed in a building that had been evacuated and abandoned, 1 block from where the World Trade Center had stood
Oh my
once
gosh.
they lifted the quarantine. And so I worked in that building for a year. It was 97% vacant. People fled for their lives, left their flat screen TVs, left their big leather sofas and their pictures of their families, and just split.
Wow.
And so I got this job, and it occurred to me after a few months of doing this that no one was watching. And I started bringing my guitar to work, and I would and I had a big key ring, filled with keys, and I would go into different apartments and wait for people to show up for me to show them these vacant apartments.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was not exactly like everybody wanted to live there. It was a war zone. I'd take people up to the roof deck, the common roof deck, and you look into the crater in the ground,
Oh
and
my gosh.
it was crazy.
That's
Like,
like so
so
bizarre.
I spent a year there and I wrote a bunch of songs in, the
Oh.
presence of, what I consider to be the angels of the departed. I mean, I was in a place that was spiritually so thick with
Mhm.
memories and with energy. And I wrote a bunch of songs, and I just felt like I needed to record them.
Mhm.
And I got together with my wonderful friend Matt Keating, who I've worked with over the years, and he produced a few of those songs. And I didn't really think much of it. And, it was kind of very demo-y.
Hmm.
And I passed it around to a bunch of people. And one of the people who ended up hearing it was Edgar Bronfman at Warner Music. He was head
Wow.
of Warner. And he sent it on to his people at Warner Chapel. And, um, and I got a call from,
Wow.
it got passed on in New York and it got passed on in Nashville. But the lady, Judy Stakey in Los Angeles, she she called me up and she said, I have chills just thinking about it. She's like, I hear something in you. I really, if you ever come out to Los Angeles, I would like to meet you. And
Wow.
so in that year, the following year, I just I fleshed out those however many songs. I don't know if we had 4 or 5, whatever, and I
Uh-huh.
made like a full record, which what is that self-titled record. And
Okay.
I flew out to Los Angeles and met her, and
Wow.
I played her the remainder of the songs. I sat and I went into the halls of Warner, which was kind of like basically like going to Oz,
Right,
with
right.
all the gold records on the walls and stuff like that. And I went into her office and we laughed and we cried and we listened, and I fell in love with her. I was so excited to meet her. I mean, she was such a dynamic force. She had signed all these really important people, Sheryl Crow and Jewel and
Hmm.
all these like super, amazing people that I loved and admired. And I left her office not really knowing, what was going to go on. And I got on a plane to come back to New York. And when I got off that plane, I have to tell this story because it's such a good one. There was a message on my answering, like the phone, and it said, I'm signing you. I already
Wow.
contacted your lawyer. And that was it. I had like this crazy break in my
That's
life as a
mhm.
single mom, with no hopes of really doing anything significant in the music industry anymore. I just figured, well, that was just like that's what I did then.
Mhm.
Now post parenthood and post divorce and post 9/11, what in the world could happen for me? So that happened. So the moral of that story is basically just keep writing your songs. You really honestly never know what's going to happen or when.
Mhm.
And it was the greatest experience of my life to have her pretty much tap me on the shoulder and say, it's real. You
Right.
really are a songwriter. You really are somebody that can do this.
Mhm.
Welcome to the club. And
Yeah.
then of course what happened after that is trying to reach for a bar that's extremely high. Because once you get, like we're saying, once you get inside, you
Yeah.
know,
Gotta
it's
stay there.
you got to stay there.
Yeah.
And I can't say that I was great at it because what I didn't really realize, and I think a lot of the lessons I learned from being with Warner, I didn't really learn till it was over, till I
Oh,
didn't have it
interesting.
anymore. Because when I was having it, I was so busy trying to keep it that I
Mhm.
didn't really understand the power of what I was supposed to know.
Right. Right. And did
And
they put out 2 records for how many records did they put out with you? Just the first
well,
one?
my records were put out independently, and they signed me as a songwriter. So
Oh.
yeah, yeah. So all my records have pretty much been put out independently, with the exception of a smaller labels.
So
Um,
so when you got signed to Warner Chapel, you were signed as a songwriter
as a
and you'd
songwriter,
pitch for
yes,
other people?
exactly, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it was amazing, and it was the perfect job for a single mom
Right.
because basically what the arrangement we had was that I would go to Nashville, and that's
Mhm.
how Nashville, that's so in 2006, I got signed, and she said, "Come on down to Nashville. I want you down here 1 week a month, and I'll make your schedule, and you get off that plane and you write from the minute you get here to the minute you leave." And that's exactly what I did. And
Wow.
I learned, I mean, the learning curve was like straight up.
Yeah, yeah.
There was no learning curve. It's like
Right.
I
Just
got off the
thrown in the deep end.
I went to my first write. I'd never done anything like this before, where they basically like you go in the room, and they're like, okay, it's 10 a.m. Let's have a song by 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Just whip it out.
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
didn't know what that was. Like it was this very strange animal to me. And in New York, there were not people writing like that. It just
Mhm.
wasn't the way it was done. And in
Sure.
addition to the fact that I would say that there was an attitude about it, like, how can you write a song in 2 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours, whatever? but the amazing thing is you can,
Hmm.
because yeah, you can. You just have to get out of the way and let the song happen. And so when I say I learned my lessons later, I think what I really kept, I held on to the amazing um, ability to walk in the room and write a song. Like that's not something I would have done had I had the fire not been turned up
Sure,
in the
sure.
frying pan like all the way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, all right, just do it.
Right, right. So all while going to Nashville to write songs with other people, you're
Yeah.
also writing your own records at the
Yes.
same time. And were you touring these albums, or was it
Well,
just kind of like put them
I
out and
I kind of I did some performing, but for the most part, I was very consumed with, like, as a writer, it takes up a lot. Like, if
yeah, I
you're
can't
writing on that
imagine.
level with for that kind of a thing, and you're doing
And
them
you're a
all,
parent, so
and
that makes it even more
and the
difficult.
thing about single parenthood, not that we're anything all that much more special, but I will say that single parenthood is not twice as hard. It is about 10 times as hard, I
I
think.
can't
Just
even
because,
imagine.
even just going out for a roll of toilet paper becomes exponentially more difficult when you
Hmm.
have a young child that you
Yeah,
cannot.
get them in the car seat.
Yeah,
Hopefully they want to
exactly.
go, and then
So,
it's like, are they going to
yeah,
scream? And
yeah,
yeah.
for me, and not having much of a support system, I was, it was all I could do to just
Hmm.
do that and do the music that way. But I did manage to continue to make my own music, and I definitely performed locally. And then when I had the opportunity, I performed, you know,
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
bigger radius. But for the most part, I tried to keep my radius small enough to really raise my kid. And
yeah. That makes total
you
sense.
know, it,
Hmm.
it's because raising children is a lot about radius. Like,
Hmm. Oh yeah,
you find that you want to keep everything in this nice little,
close
uh,
area.
yeah,
You
right.
got to
If
be
you
able to
can
get
make
close enough to get home if you need
exactly,
something, or
that's
yeah,
right. If
sure.
you can keep it all pretty tight, it just works. And
Right.
there's a beauty to it and a rhythm to it. And children love repetition. I mean,
Hmm.
most children love, habit repetition. They like to know,
What's
okay,
coming next?
what's
Right.
coming. Yeah,
Yeah.
most kids do not like surprises. I mean, like, you know, in terms of their schedule being,
Right. Other
changed.
than a present or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But they have to know that the present's coming.
That's right. Um, yeah, I mean, and I feel like my kid, she's a little gypsy kid. Like, I could pack her up and take her and do great things with her. She was very flexible that way,
That's great.
and very fun to have around. I took her on stage with me. Held her on my hip, or she would wait beside the stage, and like various different jobs, weird jobs that I had over the years. She was always like, she was cool to just run around like a hippie kid, because I'm kind of like a hippie mom. But even hippie kids need consistency.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
definitely.
I
Definitely.
feel like that is just it's just an important aspect of parenting that
Totally.
is grounding,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
makes them feel safe.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah,
Completely
I
agree.
kind of did that. I tried to do it all,
Uh-huh.
and doing it all, usually something has to be postponed.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I kind of feel like over the years, I found a way back to not just back, but also forwards,
Mhm.
back and forwards, because dreams have a way of, like, if you don't have time for them, they don't just go away.
Right.
I
Yeah,
find this,
exactly.
I find this true of, so many people that I talk to. You
Hmm.
know, they don't just vanish. You can't just kind of, I mean, as many times as I've tried to, like, close the door on certain things and say, what's the point? Or have people tell me, what's the point? Why are you doing this? You're never going to have this, that, or the other. First of all, I just don't know that that's the message that I want to get or give, because I kind of think that it's not how creativity works. Creativity doesn't work according to anybody else's timeline. It doesn't just show up when you're young and perfect.
Hmm.
It comes back, like when you've got a kid and a mortgage payment and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
It's like, wait a minute,
totally.
I'm not done doing this. I want to still do this.
Hmm.
So I have managed to find ways to do it, and I think part of the fun is finding ways. Like I said from the very beginning, I'm pretty defiant when it
Yeah.
comes to like, putting me out to pasture. You better believe I'm coming right back.
Sure.
And with something new, something else, because it definitely is inspiring to me to
Mhm.
kind of say no, sorry, I don't lay down for this,
Yeah.
and I'm not done yet. And I
Mhm.
think that's the thing. The good news about not being done yet, is that there's so much more to have, and you can't predict what that is. Like,
Sure.
and I don't want to predict it. I want to be surprised. You
Mhm.
know, I want to be surprised by the journey of what it feels like to continue to make music, to
Mhm.
try something else, to not be brave, to not be brave, to be brave.
To be
You
brave.
know,
Yeah.
and I think one of the most important things I'm learning as I go along is the beauty of kind of separating yourself from what other people think and what other people expect. And there's just something so exciting to me about um, surprising myself and surprising people with, oh wow, she's back, look what she's got, what she got
Yeah.
for us
That's
now,
cool.
like
Right. Right.
it's
It,
and yeah, I mean, it's been really exciting and satisfying. I mean, here I am releasing another record, and
right.
I mean, I'm excited about it because it definitely tells a lot of my story of where I feel I am now.
Uh huh.
And that's another thing about being a songwriter. Are you're a songwriter too?
No, no, I'm not. Just a music fan.
Okay, great.
I'm in the radio. I was in the radio world for
Uh-huh.
15 years plus years. So
Okay, well, we can't live without you. So as far as I'm concerned, you're our best friend.
I
We,
made some good friends and have
I
had some cool
bet.
experiences, but I wish I could write songs, but that's just not.
Well,
I
we need,
enjoy listening to them.
yeah, exactly. We need someone to listen to them. But what I was going to say about, writing songs over a period of time is that there is kind of like this amazing ability to look back at where you were and where you've been and where you are now through the song. Like
Yeah,
you put on somebody's 4 albums that they've written over a period of time, you really get to see like, oh wow,
how
like
they
how they've
evolved.
grown and how they've
Yeah,
evolved. And it's kind of a living history of
sure.
not just for me personally, but I kind of feel it music is a historical document. Like it is a way of looking at time and freezing time and saying, wow, at that moment in time, this is how people were thinking and feeling. You know,
Right. Yeah, it's like a snapshot of that time
it
period.
is. So
That's
it
interesting.
so it's both personally and globally. I mean,
Right.
Lord knows what's going to happen musically out of this moment in
Yeah, I mean, there's already been some incredible records out of this whole thing. I mean,
time.
look, Taylor Swift put out two of probably the best albums she's ever wrote,
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
incredible.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So it's pretty exciting what's going to happen. And I do think all this kind of stuff makes for great art because
mhm,
people are just driven to make sense and create some kind of order and peace out of, what's happening around them,
sure.
and like kind of stay connected
Yeah.
and
When
find the
you
love.
when you took the job at, or when you got signed to Warner Chappell and you're writing for other people and midst with trying to write your own records, was it difficult to like separate the two? Like, would you go into a session and not want to share certain things that you want to keep for yourself, or
Invariably, I have a lot of friends who are songwriters, and I think we all feel that way. We feel like,
okay,
oh, this one's for me, this
right?
one's mine, and I I definitely felt that way and feel that way.
Mhm.
That some songs you just know they're your story.
Sure.
I still get together and write, not knowing what's going to happen, but there are songs that are just absolutely literally like an extension of who you are, you know
Right.
and they are your songs to sing. And so yeah, it was a big conflict for me when I was with
Mhm.
Warner, because with Warner you're kind of owned. you know
Right.
they kind of own you. So if you wrote it and they own it, it's not always your choice what happens to it, or frequently
Interesting.
is.
Yeah.
So
Did you ever have an experience where you put a song out on a record and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, we should have took that song?
I feel like everything that I put out, they had, and they were able to kind of pitch it
Okay,
simultaneously.
that's good.
So
Yeah,
it wasn't like I
there was
took it
any
and took it away.
headbutting.
And
Yeah, yeah,
had
yeah. We're like, I'm gonna put this out, and then they're like, wait a minute, that's a hit. I wish I took
sometimes
that from you
right.
guys.
Sometimes you make an agreement that you have it for a period of time before anybody else can have it. But for the most part, it was everything was fair game. So they, if I had it, and of course, listen, you know, I'm probably not going to sell a million records. So like, if they can find somebody who's going to
If
do
Kenny
it,
Chesney wants to put it
yeah,
out, you're cool with
they're
that.
not going to meet with that much resistance.
Right.
But there are definitely like songs can have that, feel like your children, and it is hard sometimes to like think that anyone else could do
Could
it the way you would
sing
do
it,
it,
right?
and but that attachment, I find, with maturity, I've gotten less clingy,
Attached,
like
yeah.
I think when I was younger, I would be like, no, no one can have this. I don't want anyone else. It's
It's
mine.
hard to give away your bait. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard to put your art in somebody else's hands and say,
It
hey,
totally is. So,
yeah, like,
so I'm not going to say I haven't had those feelings because I absolutely have had
sure.
them. But you kind of work through it, and most importantly, if you write a song that you feel has merit and has meaning, you want people to hear it. You know,
Hmm.
you want people to
Totally.
hear
Yeah.
music, and I mean that's the beauty of where we are in our world today. That we have the potential. I mean, I can put a song on, any kind of social media, and people will hear it.
Hmm.
That's the joy of it. And of
Sure.
course, if you have a big song, then many more people will hear it.
Hmm.
But just the fact that our songs can be heard, I think for most songwriters and singers, if you ask them, you know, they'll tell you that that is just the greatest feeling to
Hmm.
know that, I can somehow, I mean, digitally distribute like
Something.
my music to countless numbers of people. And there are ways to kind of, yeah, really be heard.
Sure. And you just, well, the most recent song you put out is called All Heart, and you're putting a record out this year,
Yes,
a
that's
full
right.
length. Tell me
The
about
end
the
of the month.
album. Oh,
So
next month. Oh,
the
the
whole
end of this month, the 29th, right?
29th. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, the album is actually called All Heart. That was like it's the name of that song, but it's also I
Sure.
decided to call the album All Heart because I really feel like, when people say like, what's your best feature? I always say my heart, because it is it is the most I have to give. I really feel is what happens inside of my heart. I really believe in love. I'm just a love driven human. I I think love is the answer. So, yes, I am kind of a hippie in that regard. No one is ever going to tell me that love can't fix a lot of the problems that we seem to be having in our
Hmm.
world.
Sure.
And so, I not only do I feel like, I come from a heart centered, heart uh, focused place, I feel like that's how we relate and connect to one another. I think if we can cut through all the, I don't know, are we allowed to curse on this?
Yeah. 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 Of
We
course.
cut through the bullshit. It's really, heart to heart is how we manage to really feel connected to one another.
Hmm.
And so, as corny as some people may associate the heart with, to me it is at the very core, the root, the of who we are and what binds us together and makes us feel unified as a human race. So
Sure.
I'm all about the heart. I feel like my heart and your heart, if they met, we're gonna get along because heart
Sure.
to heart, there's nothing in the way of that.
Hmm.
We all hurt, we all heal, we all, you know, suffer, and we all love. And I just think I'm just really fascinated by the human heart and
Hmm.
all the different facets of what it is to feel. And
Sure.
I'm a feeling person. I live in a world of feelings. And for me, songs are my opportunity to kind of synthesize and capture and distill the beauty of a feeling and get it from me to you. You know,
Yeah. I
that's
love that.
songs are like, in that way, they're like a speeding bullet. Like
Hmm.
if you can load your heart into a song, you can get it from here to there. It's like it's got wings and wheels and turbo engine. You know, it's got something to propel it
Sure.
from, you know, from the inside of me to the inside of you, and that's my goal.
I love that. And that with this new record, was this something that you had like wrote and recorded prior to
It
like
was
COVID shutdown or?
it was recorded prior to COVID,
Okay.
and you know, I it really wasn't until I was shut down here in New York that I was like, well, you know, it's done. You know,
Mhm.
are you gonna just forget about it, or are you gonna like put it
Put
on
it out.
hold? And you know, I'm here in New York where people were dying, and it
Yeah. The horrid, that was worse of it for like a very long time.
that's right. I arrived in New York on March 6th with a return ticket to Nashville on March 16th. And I expected to have a 10-day turnaround and just head right back to Nashville. I was just going to
Sure.
say hi to my mom, hi to my daughter, love you both, gotta go, see you soon. I mean, at that point, I was flying back and forth every few weeks, just, you know, because I live in both worlds.
Mhm.
But on March 13th, the hammer just came down, and here I was, and after months of kind of feeling like listening to the sirens go by and the death toll mounting and
Sure.
really people fearing for their lives,
It was scary.
it was
Yeah. What
terrifying.
even here in San Diego, just watching
Yeah.
you know, everything happening in New York and constantly seeing the mayor up on there like
Yes. The
talking
governor.
Governor Cuomo.
Cuomo.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Him up there like daily, like pleading and help. Like it was heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking. And so there are moments in life where you just kind of realize that it's now or never. You
Hmm.
know, as much as I felt like, well, I didn't write this during the pandemic, and some of the material is, you know, is it appropriate, and do I even want to do it? Well, what if you don't do it, and then
Yeah,
you got,
who
you know,
cares?
what is that saying? You know, don't die with the song inside you.
Oh,
You
I
know,
love that.
I really I really live that and believe that. I do not want to die with the song inside me. I have
Hmm.
got to get it out. You know, and whether it's out to 10 people or 10 million people, it just has to be out. You know, and so it became releasing this record became a metaphor for releasing my heart, my soul, and my body from this incredible confinement, you know, and
Sure.
this isolation. It was so isolating. I didn't have the benefit of being with the people that I really wanted to be with.
Hmm.
And, you know, it was like, how do I get from here to there?
Yeah,
And
get out. Yeah.
it's music. And music, you know, you cannot take the wings off a song. Songs will go and fly without you. They don't need you. Once they're done, they really can leave you behind. And they can live without you. They can live forever. You
Mhm.
know, you can't, but they can. So,
Sure.
you know, I invested, for lack of a better word, my heart and soul into finding a way to let myself let it go,
Hmm.
because it's not easy, you know, to say, oh well, what is it justified? I didn't write, you know, we shall overcome, or I didn't write the song that's going to change the world, but
Right.
I need to just symbolically release music because it releases my heart and spirit into the world, and it gives me a sense of purpose
Hmm.
and a reason for doing what I do.
I love
So
that.
that's kind of where I'm at.
That's amazing. And Jenna, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time.
It was awesome talking to you.
I do have one more question before I let you go. I
Yes.
want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Well, I don't think this advice is going to be something you haven't heard before, but
Doesn't
I'm going
matter.
to say it anyway. If I have learned anything, it is that the true joy of doing this comes from being true to yourself. Do your thing, whatever it is, whatever it looks like, sounds like, even if it doesn't compare to anyone else or what you hear or what you've already heard, you know, just do you. Be you, do you. Find your voice, because that ultimately is the reward for doing this. The reward for doing this is that you find yourself. And I think like that's a great life goal. That's a great thing to feel like you've accomplished, is this kind of, you know, what it's no joke when Christ says know thyself. You know, I
Hmm.
think you got to dig deep, find
Sure.
out who you are, and this is a great way to do it. So as you're, you know, tunneling through and trying to find out what you have to give the world, it has to do with like making a deeper connection to who you are and what your voice has to say. And that's been the most satisfying thing for me. So I say be yourself, do your thing. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. Don't listen to any naysayers. You know, yeah, just stand up and be heard, and uh, and enjoy it and love it. Have fun with it, because if you get too caught up in what is not happening, you don't get to enjoy the moment. And the moment really is all we have. I hate to get heavy, but you know, that's one thing I've, you know, really feel about the pandemic, and why I'm releasing music right now is because we need to celebrate in the moment,
I
because the
love that.
moment is rich and full, and we're in it, and that's what
Hmm.
makes it great.
Bringing it backward.